Hey, good morning, everybody. It's 5:30 a.m. on this Sunday, January 19th, 2014. Hold on for a sec. Sorry about that. Had to let the cat out. But anyway, um, I wanted to. Well, this is you'll see the title down below, but this is a question for Zara and anybody else out there. Now, Sean Zara, you may have recalled couple years ago. In fact, if you look back on your look back at your if you look back at your Zara Responds channel, you might recall responding to some of my questions. In fact, you did a two-part video on it, which I appreciate. When you responded to these questions, and the very first question you answered was about the whole Mecca Sally situation that was happening in Sonic the Hedgehog. Now, I know I'm probably not the only viewer of yours. I'm not the only viewer, a follower of yours that's a Sonic fan or a fan of the comic books and all that. Pretty much, you have fans that have sent you various copies of the Sonic comics for yourself and for your collection, as well as for your daughter Rosie to probably read and enjoy. Well, I don't know if any of these fans have been keeping you up to date. I know maybe if you've checked out my videos on my channel, you might have been up to date a little bit, or if you've been Googling it. But if not, for people like you and for someone like you and anybody else listening, I'm going to get you guys a little bit up to date on what's going on. Now, the whole Mecca Sally, what many fans and even Ian Flynn, the current head writer, the main head writer, if you will, on the comic books right now, on the Sonic comic books, Ian Flynn, basically dubbed as the Mecca Sally arc, which started, believe it or not, actually started, and this is hard for me to even fathom. It actually started in 2011. Yeah, that's how long this thing had been going on. 2011 is when this thing started. Believe it or not. It started around, I believe, October, November 2011, and it just recently, believe it or not, came to an end basically around the same time frame, if not a little earlier. Well, same time frame 2 years later, a year and a half later, if not earlier. Basically, what happened is, of course, is in case some of you don't know, um, and this is a graphic novel, Sean, that I highly recommend you try to get. I think you can get it through Amazon and comic book shops around there. But basically, what happened is Robotnik or Eggman. Basically, what he did, um, by using all 7 Chaos Emeralds or something like that, he had created what was known as a Genesis Wave. And what he tried to do basically with this Genesis wave was he tried to recreate the world in his image. Basically, he wanted to have the planet Mobius free of Sonic and his friends so that it would be easier for him to conquer. Unfortunately, that did not happen because what happened was because basically what happened was the Genesis wave just sent Sonic and his friends, as well as Robotnik, Eggman, if you will, into an alternate world, into an alternate version of the world, which was more based on the first two games of Sonic, the first ever two Sonic games, which were Sonic 1 and Sonic 2. That's basically all it did. And just minor spoilers here in case you haven't read them. Basically, Sonic and Sally, believe it or not, just Sonic and Sally, and I think Eggman, Robotnik, if you will, for a bit, and Snively. Well, not Snively, as far as I know, but Sonic, Sally, and I think Robotnik a little bit, remembered the old world. They knew about the old world. So basically, long story short, Sonic is able to restore the world to normal, but he's also able to restore it at the same time, basically at the same time as he restores the world back to normal. As he restores the world back to normal, he also is able to go back in time just by a few minutes and save Sally from being gunned down. Yeah, basically what happened, I think in 225, the 225th issue, which led into what was known as the Genesis Saga. Basically what happened is while Sonic was occupied with a huge Silver Sonic robot, Sally decided to take that opportunity to go down the hallway to try to get to the control room, to the brain of the Death Egg, if you will, or the heart of the Death Egg. And what happened at the end of 225, which led us into the Genesis arc, that started with issue 226. What happened was she was gunned down. She was literally gunned down by a torrent that came out of the wall, and she was shot. And I think, to quote what Ian Flynn said, the current head writer, said about the situation was, when that happened to Sally, she basically looked like she was Swiss cheese, or worse than Swiss cheese. Yeah, she was basically full of holes. But anyway, again, like I said, long story short, this led into the Genesis arc, which in the end, Sonic was able to go super and restore things back to normal, as well as go back in time just by a few moments and save Sally from being shot down. Now, that sounds all good and everything, right? That sounds good and everything, right? Well, unfortunately, and this is the only negative thing I've looked at it, and I'm sure, and I know I'm not the only fan that looks at it like this, guys. But basically what happened was his saving of Sally, him going back, him restoring the world back to normal, as well as going back in time by a few moments to save Sally from being gunned down. This is the one problem that myself and a few other fans have a problem with. It was all for naught. Because basically what happened later on, Sonic once again gets occupied by not just by Silver Sonic again, the giant Silver Sonic robot, but he also gets occupied by Metal Sonic. And what this does is it allows Sally once again to find an open door of opportunity to try to shut the Death Egg down by using Nicole to try to shut the Death Egg down. And what happens even before this is she and Sonic find out from Eggman before this happens, and this is after he rescues her. after Sonic rescues her, they find out from Eggman that basically the new Death Egg, and that's why a lot of people called it the Death Egg Mark II, that this new Death Egg is actually a global roboticizer. Yeah, this Death Egg was created to ultimately roboticize the entire planet. Yeah, roboticize the entire planet. So what happens, going back forward to what I was saying with Sally and Nicole, is Sally and Nicole both discovered that they don't have enough time to they don't have enough time to shut the beam down or hack into the system and shut the beam down, or give them enough time to avert the beam back to the Death Egg and then allow them to escape. They find out they don't have enough time to avert the beam and escape. So basically Sally says, you know what? I was given a second chance, Nicole. I'm not going to, I'm not going, basically she says, look, I was given a second chance at life. I was given a second chance at life to do the right thing, to help people, and I'm going to do it. And what happens? Sally basically sacrifices herself to the roboticizer and becomes Mecca Sally. Yeah, she becomes Mecca Sally. And then this, of course, leads into her being Robotnik's robotic slave for quite some time. And then, of course, you get a story of all the freedom fighters dealing with the loss, the parents dealing with the loss and all that, and then trying to bounce back and actually try to save Sally. And what was interesting about this, guys, and Sarah Nizarak, I hope you are hearing this. What's interesting about this, and again, not to spoil much, but what Eggman does to Sally here is something that has never been done before, except maybe in other comics and other mediums. Basically, what happens is at the end of one of the future, at the end of one of the issues, which I think I'm trying to think is 232, I believe. I'm not really sure. But okay, well, first of all, at the end of issue 231, the main story ends with Robotnik, Eggman, holding a blowtorch to Sally, to the now mechanized, roboticized Sally's face. Basically, he's holding a blowtorch right next to the roboticized Sally's face. And even before then, there's panels of him measuring her arms, measuring her head, and it's like just like fitting her for an outfit or something. And then, like I said, the end of issue 231, the main story of it has him holding a blowtorch to her face. And then the end of issue 232 has him placing a modified power ring inside of her as sort of like a battery pack or something like that. And then in the following issue, we see her now weaponized. Yeah, literally, we see her weaponized. And if you want to, Sean, Zerenizarek, and anybody else that's listening, here's what you do. Go to Google, type in Mecca Sally, and you'll type in weaponized Mecca Sally, and you'll see what we mean. So basically, from that time forward, after they have like this one issue where they put the traitor of Jeffrey St. John on trial and all that. Basically, after that, we have the freedom fighters sort of branch off into two different teams. One led by Rhoda, known as Team Freedom. The other consisting of Sonic, Tails, and Amy, and any allies they might meet on the way, known as Team Fighters. So, anyway, long story short, for a while, it's just like a back and forth kind of deal with Team Fighters trying to basically doing the same thing over and over, and that is following Robotnik, following Eggman Robotnik to a location, finding Sally there, trying to save her, rescue her, and eventually coming up short by letting her escape and all this and that. And there are several indications in issues in issues that in issues throughout this saga that you could kind of see what Ian Flynn had originally, keyword originally, had planned, and that he was going to originally have Sally's free will restored. A key word there, originally. But again, basically it's just the whole back and forth, same thing over and over again. And then, of course, you had subplots with the a new group led by Sally's brother called the Secret Freedom Fighters, also associated with Silver. And then, of course, eventually Silver finds out who the traitor he's been searching for has been the whole time. And, of course, if it wasn't any more evident after her sacrifice to the roboticizer of who that traitor is, I don't know what was more evident. But actually, Silver finds out who his traitor is now, and he joins up with the Secret Freedom Fighters to at least find the traitor and then get the answer, which he does. Just little subplots here and there. And then we get to a 4-part sub-arc, which starts in issue 243. The sub-arc, if you will, is dubbed Endangered Species. Endangered Species. Now here's what's funny about this. If you look at the original covers, and I'm sure you can find them online, the original preview covers for 243 and 244, you will see Knuckles' girlfriend, Julie Sue, standing side by side with Amy Rose in the bottom right-hand corner of the cover. As well as with another story arc that was going on in the Sonic Universe spin-off comic with the Chaotix. One of the original preview covers had Robbo the Hedge. Robbo the Hedge, who is actually the cousin in the comics to Amy Rose. And he looks a little bit like Sonic. But anyway, basically what happens, long story short, is these are the original preview covers for the Endangered Species and the Endangered Species Arc, sub-arc in the main comic, as well as the Chaotix arc in the Sonic Universe spinoff. But here's what happens, folks. Here's what happens. And Sean, you'll definitely get a kick out of this. Here's what happens. Behind the scenes, Archie Comics and Ken Penders, a former writer of the comic, Ken Penders, who did the artwork for the cover to the Sonic SatAM 4-disc DVD box set by Shout Factory. Ken Penders, who did the cover art for the 4-disc DVD box set of Sonic SatAM that was released by Shout Factory. The same Ken Penders that did that cover art ends up in a legal battle with Archie Comics, which I guess, depending on who you want to believe, Archie started, or Ken started, depending on who you want to believe. And this was all based around Ken Penders wanting some kind of compensation, if you will, compensation for his characters that have been constantly used in the comics even after he left. That's right. He wanted some kind of compensation for the use of his characters and the reference to his stories and the use of his stories, the reprints of his stories in the little graphic novels known as the Archives and Selects. So it was basically, depending on who you want to believe on how it got started, it was just back and forth. And because of this, what happened is Archie Comics decided to revise a lot of the preview covers for Endangered Species and the Chaotix arc in Sonic Universe, in the Sonic Universe spinoff. They decided to revise and alterate the covers. So, like for example, for the part 2 of Endangered Species, which I think was 244, issue 244, It's, instead of having Amy Rose and Julie Stu as originally, it just has Amy Rose. Just has Amy Rose. Just has Amy Rose. And then for the Chaotix, they replaced Robble the Hedge, or replaced the whole cover of one of the issues for the Chaotix Saga in the Sonic Universe comic with a different cover. And basically the end result was Ian Flynn and those working on the Chaotix Saga, whether it was Ian Flynn or Tracy Yarlin, we don't really know. But basically what this did was cause Ian Flynn to have to rewrite and revise everything of the everything in the Endangered Species sub-arc that was part of the overall Mecca Sally arc. Yeah, the sub-arc, which was part of the overall Mecca Sally arc, the Endangered Species sub-arc, had to be revised because of what happened, and thus everything that Ian Flynn had planned originally, and like I said, originally, everything that, and like I said, go back to that key word I mentioned earlier, originally, everything that Ian Flynn, the current head writer, had planned for the Mecca Sally arc was basically tossed out the window, was shelved indefinitely, was basically put into the vault, never to be officially published ever again. And what happened because of that? Well, one, you had them revise the Endangered Species arc, which essentially wrote out a lot of the Echidna characters, including Julie Stu, including a character named Remington, including Knuckles' mom, Lala Lee, if you will, including Julie Stu's half-sister, Linda. They all got written out. And how do they get written out? By having a new character, which is an Archie Comics exclusive, and obviously an Ian Flynn original character, called Thrash, the Tasmanian Devil, basically use a warp ring from one of the enemies of Knuckles, use a warp ring, or use the instructions or whatever that one of the enemies of Knuckles left behind, to supercharge a warp ring and send all the Echidna characters, basically all the Ken Pender characters that were created when Ken Penders was on the book, basically send them into another dimension, never to be seen again. So basically that's caused, like I said, Ian Flynn, the current head writer, keep up with me here, no offense, but try to keep up with me, please, but basically caused Ian Flynn to have to revise and rewrite the entire Endangered Species sub-arc. And again, no offense, I'm just asking you guys to keep up, because I know it sounds a little confusing. It's even confusing for me when I think about it. So basically that caused him to revise and rewrite the Endangered Species sub-arc, and essentially rewrite and revise the entire Mecca Sally arc, from what he had originally planned. Because he had originally planned for this arc to go a lot longer than what it did. So what happened was, we did 247, which had Sonic, Tails, and Amy team up with the Arctic Freedom Fighters, encounter Sally, and then along with Silver's help, actually finally capture her, or at least be on the verge of capturing her, when another Genesis wave happens. That's right. We go into another Genesis wave. And what this leads into is a 12-issue summer-long, what this leads into is a summer-long 12-issue crossover story arc dubbed Worlds Collide. and it's a crossover between Sonic and Mega Man. And it goes across all 3 books. The Sonic the Hedgehog main comic book, the Sonic Universe spin-off, and the Mega Man comic book. That's what it does. It starts off with Mega Man, and this is how the order goes. This is how it goes in order. Mega Man's the first part, Sonic Universe is the next part, Sonic the Hedgehog is the third part, and redo. That's basically how it goes. It's like Mega Man was part 1, Universe part 2, Sonic the Hedgehog part 3, Mega Man part 4, Sonic Universe part 5, Sonic the Hedgehog part 6, Mega Man part 7, Sonic Universe part 8, Universe part 9, Mega Man part 10, Universe part 11, Sonic the Hedgehog part 12. That's how it went. And that was all summer long. All late spring, mostly summer long. And then how did it end? It ends with both Sonic and Mega Man going super. That's right, Mega Man goes super, and Mega Man successfully restoring his world with chaos control. Well, Sonic's attempt to restore the world like he did before gets interrupted by Dr. Eggman, who is basically just saying, no, I'm not going to let you beat me again. I'm not going to let you do this. And he says this quote in the comic. He says this in the issue. If I can't have the world my way, neither can you. And basically, due to his interruption, he causes the world, Mobius Prime, the Mobius that we've known for many years, to alter and change to be a Mobius Prime that's very similar and influenced to what you see in the video games. And this is all acknowledged as soon as we get into issue 252. And when we get into issue 252, we find out that certain video game stories had already taken place in this world, like the Sonic Colors, and like Sonic Colors, the DS version. And I think Sonic Adventure 1 and 2 had all already taken place in this version. And basically what happens in this version, and basically what happens here, is it takes the artificial intelligence character Nicole, who is also an anamorphic lynx when she can get her hologram, when she can get her real life hologram fully operational. She's a lynx, a female cat, a lynx. Nicole, basically, because she somehow inherited a lot of the Genesis wave energy. Anytime someone touches her, they have the memory restored. So basically, for the next few issues, starting with 252 and then recently ending with 256, Tails, Rotor, Antoine, Bunny, and then recently Sally and Amy, that's right, Sally and Amy, all have their memories restored of the old world. Basically, it's basically like this. In this world, they have memories of this new world, and Sonic's starting to get some of those new memories as well for himself. But he remembers the old world. And so does Nicole. So by basically touching Nicole, like I said, Tails, Rotor, Antoine, Bunny, Amy, and Sally all regain the memories of the old world, mixed in with memories of the new world. So basically, now we're on the verge, if you will, of what is, and that was all done in what was known as the Countdown to Chaos arc, which basically sees all of reality, the entire Sonic multiverse, the entire multiverse in the Sonic world, just crumble apart. Just crumble apart because of the Genesis waves, because of Eggman's interruption of Sonic's attempt to restore the world at the end of Worlds Collide. And all of that, because of the constant uses of the Genesis waves, the interruption, whatever. So now you got the world just breaking apart because it's got all this excess energy from the Genesis wave and from all the realities, all the other dimensions, all focused right into this one world. And this one world can't contain all that energy of all these different realities and multi-universes and all that. So basically now we have the freedom fighters and the new base, the new home away from home known as the Sky Patrol, racing against Eggman to try to not only save the planet, but to now eventually find the Chaos Emeralds that will help restore the planet. And in the long run, or not the long run, but in the long and short run of it, we are basically getting prepped as readers. We are getting prepped for what seems to be a Sonic Unleashed adaptation. That's right. They are going to adapt Sonic Unleashed, it seems, into the comics real soon. And this is all happening because of what occurred behind the scenes, lawsuit-wise, between Ken Penders and Archie Comics. And instead of basically working something out and compensating Ken Penders for his work and saying, hey, we'll pay you this much and so we can use the characters, they don't do it. And Ken Penders apparently has gone on record and saying, yeah, you could use the characters, but then also it seems he's gone on record by saying, basically saying you could use the characters, but here's my price. But we don't know what that price is. And it seems that in the eyes of some, that he's trying to basically use the comic book, the Sonic comic book, to promote his own material known as the Lalasue Chronicles. Now, the Lalasue Chronicles are based around the future stories that he did and that Ian Flynn continued, known as Mobius Years Later. So basically, not to make this any longer, this is why we're now in this situation in the comics. So my question is, hopefully the question will be in the description box or in the title. What are your thoughts on this? What are your overall thoughts on this, Zarin Isaac? What are your overall thoughts on this? What is your gang? What is your friends on your Saturday Night Insanity think of this? What does David Bunch-Numbers think about this? What do you guys really think? What about you guys here at Comic Book Issues on Facebook? What do you guys think? Because to me, honestly, this is something that it should never have been. Now, the only benefit about this is Ian Flynn, according to what he has said, around the late spring, summer portion of this year, Ian Flynn hopes to bring out something called Lost Hedgehog Tales, where he will give us an idea of what he originally had planned for the comic. What he had originally had planned for the comic. That's what Ian Flynn says he's planning to try and do this year. So, again, Zarin Isaac, Sean McLean, I want to know what your thoughts are. What are your thoughts on this situation that has occurred? Have you ever seen something like this before? In all your years of being a comic book fan and a Transformers fan and all that, have you ever seen something like this before? And what about, like I said, some of your friends at Saturday Night Insanity? Have they ever seen something like this before? Because even though it seems like they're trying to go in a new direction and try to basically make up for what they had to do And I'm trying to I'm trying to see where they're going to go with it by reading the issues. Just talking about it right now, it's still kind of confusing. But let me know what you think about it. Especially with the fact that a lot of these characters got redesigns and all that. And if you want to, you can Google that too. You can Google in Sonic comic redesigns, and you'll see exactly the redesigns for Sally, for Bunny, for Antoine, for Rotor. Let me know what you think about this. Let me know what you guys all think about this, and Sean, let me know what you think. And that's really all I'm gonna say. Laura Blue, let me know what you think about it. Anybody listening at Comic Book Issues and some of the Sonic groups here on Facebook, let me know what you guys think. And Zarin Isaac, let me know what you think. Patrick Butler, it's Frank. Let me know what you guys all think about it. And I will talk to y'all later. God bless. Take care. And as it would say in the description box, as you probably have already seen, take your time in listening to this. It's a long one.